particular version of database, whether that kind of a sharing variable is supported. Now, let us go to the next level of how to handle select statements. For example, I want to find out how many records are there in the table. If I go to SQL command, if I simply give a command like this, select count star from my table, it happily gives me the count to 10. It displays on the screen. But if I want to handle that in a stored procedure, that's a different way. Okay. Now, let me say create or replace procedure sp1. I'm not going to pass any parameter. As now, let me have a variable integer begin end. Okay. Now I want to use a select statement. Let me first use the select statement. Select count star from my table. Okay. Let me try to execute this. It's a very simple statement. Let me try to execute this. See what happens. I come back to the SQL prompt. Let me submit that. Edit, paste. It says procedure created with compilation errors. Let me see what is that error. Show error. It says very clearly in line number 8, an into clause is expected in the select statement. On the SQL prompt, you cannot do an into clause. Into clause meaning the moment you select some value, it is always displayed on the monitor. Whereas when you are using inside a stored procedure, where will it display? It will not display on the monitor. Every select statement must be having a class called into. Okay. I select number of records in the table. Store it where? I have to give a variable. Okay. Select count star, put it into the variable C from this table. Okay. So the value will come to C. Only when it comes back to the variable dbms underscore output dot put underscore line C, you can print it. So in stored procedures, the fundamental rule is whenever you are using a select statement, you must have into clause. Without into, select will not work. Okay. Oh, how come I did a paste, but somehow the paste is not working over here. Let me try once again. Edit. Okay, now it works. Now the procedure is created. Now let me execute. Execute sp1. Now look here, the value 10 is coming here. When you do the count, execute the same select count star from my table, the value count 10 was printed on the monitor. Whereas if you do the same select count in a stored procedure without the into clause, it will not work inside a stored procedure. So the rule number 1 in SQL stored procedures is whenever you are using select, use an into clause. Whatever select fetches, it must go to a variable. Is that clear? Inside stored procedures, select must always have into clause. Is this clear? Can you please raise the hands? Okay, good. Now I'm going to do one more thing. Instead of select count star, I'm going to execute a different procedure. Okay, logic. I want to get the designation. Okay, let me say D is character of say 5. Okay, instead of count star, I'm going to get select designation into the variable D from my table. Okay, I'm going to give a condition where emp id equal to 101. So I am using a select statement with a where condition inside my, previously I fetched integer count. Now I am fetching a character variable, get the designation into the variable D where the employee ID is 101. Let me try this. Control A, Control C. I come back to SQL prompt and then say edit, paste. Good. Procedure created. Great. Now let me execute this. Execute SP1. Okay. For employee ID 101, designation is VP. Let me check that. Select star from my table where emp id equal to 101. Let us see whether the designation is correct. Yep. For 101, designation is equal to VP. That is perfect. Great. Now I'm going to replace this procedure with a parameter. I'm going to pass the parameter P in integer. Instead of the hard-coded value 101, whatever value employee ID I pass, you fetch the designation of that employee. Okay. I have put that parameter also. If I pass 101, get the designation of 101. If I pass 102, get the designation of 102. So I'm slightly building some more logic here. Now let us select this. I go back to SQL prompt. Now I go here, paste. Okay, procedure created. Now let us say select star from my table. How many IDs are there? There are 10 IDs. Now let me execute. Execute SP1 for employee number 503. Okay, 503 is Abraham Locke, AGM. So his designation is AGM. So it is perfectly bringing up AGM. Now let me execute the same thing. Execute SP1 for 601. Yeah, for employee ID 601, the designation is VP. The same thing is coming here as VP. Perfect. My procedure works fine. Now let me do one more thing. Execute SP1 for the employee number 45. Oh, when I give employee number 45, that employee number does not exist in this list. And it simply says error, no data found. It comes out. It literally comes out. It doesn't print anything, right? It literally errors out, aborts, comes out of the procedure. This is a situation where you are trying to select something from the stored procedure, but the select statement fails with no data found. Okay. This is one of the most common situations. You try to select something, that data does not exist. There is no guarantee that it should always exist. You might have given a wrong data, or the table might have been deleted with the records, right? Anything could happen. One of the most frequently happening issues is when you try to select something, that data does not exist. So a select statement, if I execute the same thing, right? Select designation from my table where emp id equal to 45. I execute this from the prompt. It happily prints no row selected. It never gives error. On the prompt, a select, if it does not find a record, it will give a beautiful error, no row selected. It will not give error. Whereas inside the stored procedure, if there is no data found, it will give error, execution will be halted, subsequently no lines will be executed, control comes out of the procedure, basically it aborts. This situation is called an exception situation. When something is selected and the data is not there, it comes out. How can I make it elegant, right? It should not error out. At least it should print me some message, no data found, continue doing its process, right? It should not error out. Otherwise, it will come out of the procedure. This situation is called exception situation. So exception handling is very much required. Definitely whenever you are doing a select statement, or even for any statement, you should do exception handling, but the technique is same. But one of the most important exception that one should handle is no data found. How to handle this? Are you able to get the grasp of what is an exceptional situation over here during select? Good. I could see the hands raising. That's good. So how to handle the situation? In Java or in C++, you will have try and catch blocks. Same way here also we have something called exception blocks. To handle the exception, there is a different way of handling it. Okay. How to handle that? There is a thing called exception. Okay. Exception, right? Just to give me a second. One minute. Okay. To have the exception towards the end of this procedure, okay? Towards the end of this procedure, I will give exception, right? A keyword called exception. Okay. To handle exception, you have to give the keyword exception over here. If anything happens over here, control suddenly jumps here, it will not abort. Control will not come out of the procedure, control comes to the exception block. In Java also you have a try and catch block. If something happens wrong in try block, control comes to catch block, it will not come out of the program. So same way in store procedures also, if you have a problem in any of the SQL statements, if you have defined the exception over here, suddenly control jumps over here. Okay. What exception you want to handle? Now I want to say when. You have to say when. When is a keyword. When no underscore data underscore found. Okay. No underscore data underscore found is a keyword. Okay. All you have to do is when no data found, then okay, there is a keyword. When this exception happens, then what should I do? All I'm going to do is dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. I simply say no records found, right? Stopping happily. Okay. Instead of erroring out, I'm going to stop happily. If no exception happens, this line will be executed. If there is no record found, control comes over here. Okay. So if the moment you have a data found, this code is executed. The moment no data is found, this line is executed. Let us see. The main purpose is the code must not abort. It should not give ORA, this kind of error, runtime error. To avoid this kind of an unexpected runtime errors, you must handle exceptions. To handle exception, you must have exception as a keyword. Then what exception I want to handle? I want to handle a no data found kind of a situation. Now let us try this. Execute sp1 employee number 102, right? 102 exists. The designation AVP comes over here. That means for the employee number 102, data is found. So line number 12 is executed. Exception block is skipped. Okay. Now let me execute the same thing. Execute sp1 employee ID 45, which does not exist. Now see, it executes the select statement. Employee ID number 45 does not exist. So this select statement has an error, no data is found. Instead of executing this line, suddenly it jumps from here to line number 15. Okay, no data found, and he is executing this line happily. This time you don't see any Oracle error, right? ORA dash some error, you don't get that error. It is completing, and look at this message. PLSQL procedure successfully completed. Instead of aborting, it successfully completes. So exception handling is very, very important in Java program or C++ program or .NET program or SQL programs. In C++ and other places, you will have try and catch block. In Oracle PLSQL, you are having exception, right? When no data found, do this, right? Like this, there are a lot of exceptional situation can happen. In select, most frequent error is data not found. During insert, one of the most frequent error that can happen is duplicate, right? If you try to create a duplicate record, if the primary key is violated, you will get an error. So during insert, there may be a duplicate issue. In update also, you may encounter data not found. In delete also, data not found, error can happen, right? So anywhere you are using select, update, delete, you must definitely use when no data found exception handling. If you are using insert, there is something called duplicate value on index. That means you are trying to insert a duplicate record, that must be handled as an exception, right? Exception handling is available only inside stored procedures and functions. You cannot use exception handling outside that in a SQL prompt. You have to always use in a programming language like PLSQL. So today we covered function, how a function returns a value, how the function is called from a procedure. Then we went through package, header and body, how to contain procedures within the package, how to execute procedures within a package. Then we talked about how to use a select statement within a stored procedure with into clause. Then we talked about if select bombs inside stored procedure, it goes to exception, how to handle exception. Is this clear to you all? Suppose I have got so many procedures, so many error situations are happening, right? No data found is one kind of an error. As I said, duplicate value on index is another error. So what you can do is, if you have multiple error situations, you can always say when duplicate val on index, then do this, right? I am handling another exceptional situation. Suppose I don't know what exception will happen. I do not know what will happen, but something may happen. In that case, you can always say when others, then, right? The moment you say when others, right, that means I do not know what exception will happen. So you can have multiple when statements within this exception handling, but the exception should happen towards this end of the procedure. When no data found is one class, when duplicate value on index is another class. If I do not know what can happen, maybe database going down or user not given access or not enough memory or not enough CPU space, in that case also exception can happen. You can simply say when others. So you can have multiple exception handlers within the same exception block. Every procedure, it's better to have exception handling, because anywhere you use select, insert, update, delete, there's a chance of abortions, right? Okay, good. That to some extent covers the fundamentals and essentials of Oracle and PLSQL. The last class and this class webinar will be uploaded into our openmentor.net recorded webinars by tomorrow. Yesterday's class has been edited, and this class will also be edited tomorrow. You could see, so that all the entire course will be available in our openmentor.net portal recorded webinars by tomorrow itself. Already 13 parts are available. We'll be happy that if more people get benefit out of using those things. Okay. Good. We enjoyed openmentor.net enjoys taking free webinars to students and ensuring that the knowledge is spreading all over the world. If at all we can do something to increase the knowledge, we can only share the knowledge. Okay. So we will try to arrange webinars for business analysts. Next month we have got something called business analysts for securities and stock domain, right? Because basically business analysts will be into the domain areas. Next month we have got for stock market and securities, what is the domain, right? So again, from openmentor.net, we thank you all the people. We reiterate our motto, the whole world can learn for free. Thanks a lot, and we close this webinar now. Bye.